Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
To you at 7:45, and time to catch up with the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dixon, to find out what's been happening. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Ian. Good to be chatting to you as always.
Lovely to be chatting with you because Dubbo has launched a new water portal app. So I thought I'd get you on. We'll find out a bit more about this device.
This is something that goes back many years when we installed smart meters throughout the city. And that's been fantastic. We've been able to track water usage more accurately. Obviously, you can track it down to daily, even hourly if you want to get it to that point usage. But up until this point in time, residents haven't been able to get really accurate information on their own water usage up to the minute or almost live real time. So we've now launched the app. And if you go onto your phone and go to, whether it be Apple, to the Apple Store or go to Google Play on an Android phone, and if you search for Water Portal, Portal, then you'll find an app. You put in some details about your particular property, so some details of your assessment that'll have some certain numbers on there, and then you'll have the ability to monitor your water usage, and you can look at that daily, weekly, monthly. You can look at those reports. The main thing you can look at, there are two things, I suppose. One, just have a look at your water usage. How much water am I using? Are there things I could do to actually modify my water usage? But also, if you've got some high use for any reason, it might be a leak somewhere in your system, maybe one of your automated sprinklers is coming on, for example, and you've forgotten about it, and suddenly you realise that there's all this water going onto your lawn or in your garden that you've forgotten about, but you can just keep a track on that. And the old saying, Ian, is that if you want to change some behaviour, you've got to first of all measure it before you can actually change it. So you can look at your behaviour, look at the usage there, and then hopefully you can curb some of that and reduce your water usage, which is good for your pocket, good for your expenditure, but also good from an environmental perspective for council as well.
I think it's a great idea. It's brought water into the 21st century, like with data on our phones and that. We've been able to monitor our usage day by day, whatever with that, but now we can do it with water. Yeah,
no, it does sound like a fantastic idea and probably something that I think many councils across the state are looking at. Either they've started to look at this, they've either maybe started to change this way, but in many years' time, we'll just see it as a common thing that you do. You just pull out your phone and check your water usage on your app. The other thing that's really interesting, Ian, is that I know from many years ago, and I haven't got the latest data on this, but from many years ago, I actually did an analysis of where people were using their water. And it turned out that it was about 35% at the time of your water usage was on your garden. So it's something you can have a fairly big influence on your amount of water usage because you can change the type of garden you've got, you can change the type of plants you've got, even the type of lawn you've got to actually change that water usage. You probably can't change a lot how much water you use in the shower. If you have a 5-minute shower or a 3-minute shower, there's not a huge amount of difference that you're going to use there. So a lot of things around the house you can't change your water usage with, but your garden is one area that is a big contributor to water usage and something you can have an influence on.
Well, you could fill your yard up with cacti and succulents and stones, and that'd use a lot less water if you wanted to go that way. But obviously it means the metering system in Dubbo is somehow able to be read either wirelessly or something like that, isn't it?
There are the smart meters that we've got in Dubbo, and again, they were installed a few years ago, and those smart meters basically don't need someone to go around and do like the old-fashioned way where someone would turn up at your house and they'd pull off the old cover on the water meter and take a reading of a number. We obviously don't have people out there reading the water every day to be able to update this. The system now is set up so that those water meters are actually transmitting that data back on a regular basis. So you're right, it's being updated, not real time, but near real time.
Matthew, also too, new data shows that the Dubbo region continues to experience a surge in tourism.
Going very well at the moment, and you may remember when we did the launch of the visitor guide recently, I quoted some numbers there about some increases in tourism, and back then I talked about the fact that we had a 104% increase in domestic day trip visitors to Dubbo, a 54% increase in overnight trip visitors, and a 30% increase in the average spend. Now, they were numbers that were comparing year on year. As we were coming out of our pandemic or out of the pandemic, then obviously those figures you would hope would be going up. But the latest tourism figures we've got now are actually comparing back to pre-pandemic levels, which is probably a much fairer comparison because before the pandemic, tourism was going on at a certain level. there was a huge blip when a pandemic hit us, and now we're trying to get back to normal. But when we now compare our figures, and this is basically some figures that have come out of the Tourism and Transport Forum Australia, so it's not just figures that we've done out of our numbers, this is data from an external organisation, and it showed a few different things. First of all, it showed that there's been an increase across the central west of New South Wales by 11% increase across those areas. Now, the second part it showed was that there's a big increase for the people under 30 years of age. So there's an 11.7% increase for tourists under 30. So that's good as well. We're attracting a slightly different audience. In the past, it was really that visiting friends and family group, and that was over 30 age bracket, because it was people that had their kids, they'd settle their family, and they were looking at experiences where they'd take their kids in the car and come out to regional areas. So that's actually a different group that we're attracting now. The other part is that the Dubbo Regional Council local government area is now officially the most visited local government area across the Central West. So that's a good sign for our area as well. And I think the important part here is, Ian, that our residents, you and I, have always known that this is a great part of the area, a great part of New South Wales, a great part of Australia to come and visit. But the good part is more and more people are discovering that as well.
Certainly, that's fantastic news for our area. Now, if you pardon my pun there, you were let known by Councillor Mann about a little bit of conversation flushing through social media concerning that 3D printed toilet block in Lions Park West.
Oh, you've been sitting on that one for a while, haven't you?
There's a bit of a pun in that one too, but we won't go there.
That's right. So it's interesting. You get some commentary around different things from time to time. And certainly there was one of our councillors, Damien Mann, noticed that there's some discussion around social media around some large problems that he was hearing about or seeing on social media. One of those problems was supposedly the fact that the new 3D printed toilet didn't have a large enough opening for disabled access. And again, I'd be pretty disappointed if we designed a brand new toilet using a new innovative printing technique, the first in Australia. We've talked about that already. What a wonderful project that is and has been. And then we didn't get the disabled toilet right. Now, a quick check on that and a quick check on the Australian standards. A disabled opening has to be 850 millimetres wide. The opening on the disabled toilet on the 3D printed toilet is 920 millimetres wide. So I can put to bed straight away the fact that the disabled toilet isn't large enough. The second problem that people noticed was the fact that the disabled toilet was locked. And that's a standard practice across many parts of the nation with what's called the MLAK or MLAC system. If you need to gain access to a disabled toilet, for example, then you can actually apply to have an MLAC system key, and that will give you access to the standard key across the nation for disabled toilets. So if you are in a wheelchair, as an example, you've got an MLAC system key, you can go and use those. So it is locked, that's right, but people that need to gain access have got the ability to access that. The third thing was that the major cracks in the system in terms of the actual concrete there itself. And there are certainly some cracks. I was over there probably 3 or 4 weeks ago doing some photos with some of our staff, and there were some hairline cracks on that concrete. And we had a bit of a talk about that on the day, and I asked about those cracks, and there were a couple of experts in building there, and they said it's near impossible to lay any concrete without getting some hairline cracks. This is really a new project that's really just wanting to break new ground. And so with that, our staff said normally with a project like this, you'd paint it or you'd cement render it, and you probably wouldn't even see those cracks there. But our staff were keen to see how this project progressed, especially through some fairly hot and cold conditions that we'll get over a 12-month period in Dubbo. So they were keen to see that, keen to watch that. Now, there is a 12-month defect liability period with the organisation that did that project, Contour 3D. So if there is anything major there, it will be their responsibility to fix it. But if there are some hairline cracks there, our staff weren't too worried about that. The public shouldn't be too worried about that. They aren't structural cracks. And at some stage down the track, we'll probably paint that or maybe do some cement rendering over that anyway, or maybe just fix those cracks and have those sitting up there. So don't be concerned. It's not about to fall over. It's not about to collapse. Some hairline cracks in a piece of concrete is pretty much a standard thing to happen.
You certainly sounds like that. I mean, things move when they're new or whatever, like that sort of thing. We'll wait and see. As you said, they monitor that for the 12-month seasonal cycle. And, of course, this weekend, the big Curry Knockout on in town.
No, not this weekend. We're talking about the Curry Knockout. The fact that we've had the Curry Knockout here twice before, it's been over the October long weekend. Back in 2015 and 2018, we've had the Curry Knockout here in Dubbo. And that's a huge event, fantastic for our tourism, fantastic for the number of people it injects into our economy. What's occurred there is that the winners this year of the Curry Knockout typically get to choose where they go, and they need to choose somewhere that's going to be a suitable location. And so we're in discussions already with the winners of that from this year to look at having that hosted in Dubbo next year. So that'll be in October next year. Again, not a definite thing to happen, but over the last two times we've had it in 2015 and 2018, then definitely we'd love to see that event held here in Dubbo. It is a great event, and they have some pretty high standard rugby league that's played at that knockout, and typically you'll get some either current or recently former NRL players who are playing that event. So it's a good standard of rugby league. So we'd love to see that here. We're in discussions about what they need, what they would require in terms of the number of grounds, all those things. But it'd be great to see that come here again in Dubbo.
I got that mixed up too because the National Indigenous Touch Football Knockout is on Saturday there. So I got my wires crossed with that, with which knockout you were talking about.
No problems at all. No, that's fine. But yeah, the Curry Knockout, October long weekend, it's held each year. And again, based on those previous two experiences in 2015 and 2018, we'd love to see that here in Dubbo again.
Well, the National Indigenous Touch Football Knockout, which is on from tomorrow, that's attracting, around about 500 people staying in town too. So that's yet another great event for Dubbo. Exactly
right. And we are getting to be known for our touch footy, obviously, with the touch footy we had earlier this year, the state championships for the Northern Conference. And again, the next 3 years, we've secured that particular event. So that's, again, a great event there, and a huge number of people that will come to Dubbo for that. And again, with the knockout this weekend, we just keep seeming to have these events that attract 300, 500, 1,000, thousands of people along, and that all adds to those visitation numbers, those tourism numbers that I talked about before. Whole range of reasons people come to Dubbo. It might be to visit the zoo or the Wellington Caves or the Old Dubbo Jail. They might come to Dubbo to listen to 2DU, but they also might come along for some of those sporting events.
They might come to visit you as well.
They may indeed.
Matthew Dickerson, as always, thank you very much for your time this morning, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
My pleasure, Ian. Thank you very much.
Matthew Dickerson there.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.